Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the Game Junction Podcast. What's up, Mark?
Doing pretty good. How you doing?
Good. Got 121 this week, man. Crazy.
1-2-1.
Yeah, good times. You got anything exciting happen this week?
Surprisingly, no. I mean, I lost like $40 today, but I mean that's just how stocks go.
I was gonna say you gotta quit the sports.
I was up all week
man.
until today, then I was down like 1.5%. So I was down like $40 some dollars.
Dang, that sucks.
Man, it's all good. Nice. You got to buy on the dip. It's gonna go up eventually.
Yeah, you got to get into sports gambling app.
Gambling.
Yeah, you do a little bit. Come on.
Nah.
You bet on a couple games here and there.
Yeah, like 2 years ago.
I never bet on a game, so
and it all evened out. Won some, I lost some. I was like, whatever.
Oh man! All right, we'll go ahead and get started here with what we got first this week. So, pretty interesting thing here. We got Phil Spencer's talking. So, I want to preface this with I've also seen Elon Musk just talking about this in the past like 24 hours, a whole bunch with the Grok. I'm sure you saw about the whole Grok single app release. So Phil Spencer's talking about that generative AI could be a way to preserve old games. I don't exactly understand how he thinks this would work, but said they've launched like a venture to get into this, and there's been like kind of mixed reception on it. Obviously, I mean, generative AI is kind of it's some people are not for it. Obviously, don't want anything.
I was kind of sitting here thinking, like, how does AI preserve old games?
Well, he said this is his quotes here. They made a tool to let game developers edit a game level using existing game concepts, like adding in a jump pad to a place where there wasn't one before. Sorry, this is not Phil Spencer saying this. This is Michael Cook. So he's talking about he's kind of combating some of what's being said here. He said, then they gave us this new level to their model and asked it to show what it thought the footage of a player playing from the new position would look like. With all this understood, Phil Spencer in the above video talks about a potential use case for views in the future. So he got on this podcast, was talking about some of the stuff, the Xbox podcast, said even if this model was a perfect replication of the original executable software, this is not the be-all, end-all of game preservation. A generative model of what game footage maybe look like once might be a nice curio on the side of a real preservation process, but is always going to be inferior to the other way. So to me, it's like, that doesn't even make sense. It kind of doesn't compute, a little bit there. So that's interesting. But I guess to bring up kind of what Elon Musk was talking about with the Grok stuff, you saw that, right?
A little bit. I didn't get like too deep into it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't get really deep into it either, but unfortunately I can't bring it up because the Chrome tab's being weird with X still. I'm trying to see if I can pull up. He tweets so much, it's hard to pull up exactly what was said, but I did see that was retweeted that there was already a level that has been made with the video game. It was just Pac-Man, but it was made within Grok, which was interesting. Yeah. And this just launched like maybe 48 hours ago, something like that.
Yeah, it was. It was this week. I know that much.
Yeah, so he just 8 hours ago retweeted a tweet from Min Chow. Elon's XAI game studio will revolutionize gaming. People are already generating games with Grok 3 in minutes, and you can improve the graphics by just asking Grok, which is interesting. And then Elon Musk said to that, can make any arcade game you can think of. This year, we will add the ability to apply high-resolution imagery. I think we've got a shot at making a AAA game sometime next year. Join us to make this happen. I don't know, man. How do you feel about that?
I don't know.
An AI-generated game?
I mean, maybe in the future, it'll probably be a lot better. Obviously, we talked about before using the AI as an actual tool to help within development, maybe not take over itself, but maybe in the immediate future, not really. But I mean, it's hard to tell. And in a decade or probably within the next 5-10 years, the ability for it will be much more real. Maybe more, at least on the indie scene. AAA, I don't think it'll ever fully replace it. But I mean, I could believe here in the next decade or so, we'll start seeing actual proper AI games that aren't complete garbage.
Yeah.
I just think it'll be used more as a tool during the development cycle. Probably doing some more background tasks, or God forbid you're doing something like Skyrim, or you're just reusing the same assets for a dungeon. It makes it easier to copy paste or do something similar to make small tweaks to just speed up the development time. Then you obviously still have to go in and fix issues because it's not going to be perfect, but.
Yeah, like with the NPCs, as far as like dialogue or movements, or like, I don't know if you think about Pokemon, like with the grass kind of repeated or stuff like that, where it's like it's kind of like you said, mundane tasks where it kind of slows down development and maybe gets games out a little bit quicker on like still a good scale. That definitely makes sense to me. But no, I mean, like you said, I think it's gonna, we're looking at like the next 10-year plan for it or something like that. It's gonna take over some development for sure. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of people, taking advantage of that. It's just gonna be a tool that's there. I think it's inevitable. There's nothing we can do about that. Like
AI is here to stay.
I think it or not, it's out of control.
Long term, I think it'll have a benefit. Positive outlook. It's just how it's going to be used, and not, you don't take this to fully replace creating a world and developers, because it doesn't have the creative mind. It's just going to take from what it knows and what it's learned. So it's all a matter of using the tool for the best intended use that you can, not to completely replace the whole development cycle, because then you're just going to have a soulless game. But I mean, arguably we kind of already have that now.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Yeah, it's like everything else. If you use the proper tool for what it should be used for, it'll be used as an asset. It's the big thing is going to be finding that middle ground.
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
what it's good for and what it's not good for. That's going to be the growing pains. But you're talking about implementing AI with growing pains in an industry in the West that's already having issues as is. So I think it'll be interesting. But I think it'll play an integral part. And then in 10 years, you're just going to accept it as part of your daily life. And this goes beyond gaming. It's here to stay. Largely, I think it's got a higher upside. You just have to manage it with the downside, or with it essentially being misused. But, in another 5 years, you're going to, because I remember when people start talking about, touchscreens and iPhones and stuff like that, and you're like, this is so stupid. You're going to have a touchscreen. And now we don't even think about it. I think AI is going to be the same way. It's new technology. A lot of people are going to be adverse to it at first, and then eventually you're just going to be so used to it, and you're going to think like, oh, why was I ever afraid of it?
Yeah, I mean, I was the same way with the phone stuff, like not having the physical keyboard. I was like kind of slow to adapt to that and thought it was weird. But yeah, eventually you don't even think about it. It's just not even something you even think about. So I agree with that 100%. That's a good take on that for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about AI with gaming outside of just going and do, because it'll be so integral as far as like just everyday life. Because you think of what your phone does, and a lot of stuff daily is integrated in that. AI is just going to be another tool on top of everything else.
We look at like the Galaxy S25, like their whole marketing with that is the AI capabilities of that. Like, they got like I forget what it says exactly, but the like little slogan below it is something about AI. So like the whole thing about that update is just straight AI as far as like the S24 to the 25. So I mean, it's definitely interesting, and it's going to be implemented in literally everything. I mean, you think of medicine as far as hospitals, stuff like that. It's going to be implemented in everything that we do, teaching, stuff like that. And it's going to take over some jobs. There's going to be a little downside to it. You got to figure out how to adapt to it, like you said.
You talk about AI. What's the next big step for AI that'll probably like revolutionize
sentient AI?
Oh, it's not sentient AI. It's implementing AI and nanotechnology. I think that'll be revolutionary when it comes to medicine and taking care of your body,
for sure.
As far as like increasing the human lifespan and stuff like that, you think the idea, you take AI with nanomachines, the ability for it to like find tumors or blood clots before anybody else would even know it's a problem. They can just take care of it. I think that'll be revolutionary. I think AI is going to play a key role in that.
there's that guy that's like trying to stay alive forever, and he's like trying to keep his body maintained until we get up to the point where he thinks that
Essentially, you
we
can
can
augment
potentially
your
live
body
forever.
with machines. You'd be more machine than man at that point, but, I mean, I
Yeah.
think
I don't
could you
think this guy cares. He's making
it's
the podcast round, so I'm sure some people out there know who I'm talking about. But
yeah, because I know this is kinda go away from some of the game stuff, we'll get back to it. I think it's interesting, if you look back at, say, the turn of the 20th century in the early 1900s, where people had a positive outlook on society and technology and
yeah,
everything like that, and now everything's always, like, doom and gloom. You always think of, like, the cyberpunk stuff. I'm like, yeah, some of this is a reality, but why can't we go back to thinking about the positives of technology and the
yeah,
positives of development? Why is everything so negative? Like, I love playing, like, cyberpunk type video games and stuff like that, but
yeah,
sometimes not everything's always gonna be doom and gloom. You gotta have, like, a positive outlook in life, and that's where I think you have to you can't just, mole on the or just sit around and mole on the negatives of maybe where we're at technologically or the games development. You gotta think of, like, there's a bright future out there. You have to stay positive and have,
yep,
like, a bright outlook. Like, you can't just get muddled in this negativity.
yeah. I think it's a
I think there
big
is a lot to talk
problem.
about and criticize, but you wanna criticize the negativity to then get back to a positive aspect.
Yeah, I'm surprised hearing this from you. Talk about
I
Mark
just the
talking
way the
about
discussion went.
positivity. That's the first.
I
I'm
I
just
I always
kidding.
think about it. It just depends on
No,
what
no, it's a good point, man. I think it's a good point and just kind of everyday living for anybody out there. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
not just in the gaming space, but you just see it everywhere. And I think
There's too much negativity out there as a whole,
yeah,
regardless of what you're talking about,
social
just day to
media
day.
blows it up even more too. And it's like that's
Everything's
all you
hyper
see.
attractive to the negativity, but sometimes it's like you gotta, like,
Yep.
get away from that and get to the positive because it's like it's a negative mindset to begin, and
Yeah.
it's only gonna lead to negativity. Because if you're always thinking, like, "I can't do this," well, that's a
Hmm.
defeatist mindset, and that's gonna, go about your whole life and everything you do. If you have a positive mindset about everything, you're gonna just generally be better off, be happier.
100%. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I agree with you for sure. All right. You want to take over this next article real quick? I gotta fix just realizing the backgrounds. We don't have the
No, yeah,
background.
you're good.
Uh,
I guess as he does that, we have some leak teasing about the Elder Scrolls 6, which we've known since like 2018. But to be fair, they tease it saying, "Hey, this game is coming." But we knew back then that Starfield was going to come out, and then they were going to transition into the Elder Scrolls 6. You see some people talk about it's been like 10 years. I'm like, yeah, but when they gave you that title, it was always the advent of Starfield's coming
mhm.
first, then we're transitioning onto it. I feel like some people just can't understand the nuances, like small little
I-
details. They
do you
see a
think
trailer and they
anything to do
expect
with-
it to be in development right now.
you think it has anything to do with the negative reception on Starfield, and people are just like, I don't even
No,
want to.
and I'm sure I might get some drawback. I think a lot of people are just stupid. It's really what it
Yeah,
comes down to.
fair
But
enough. I mean,
you not bother to look or have any kind of critical think about, well, what did they say? Like, oh, well, who cares what they say? I saw this. That's how I'm gonna interpret it.
yeah, I mean, it says 2023. Phil Spencer said about 5 years away. So
Which is, about
that's
I mean, that's when
it's only
Starfield
two
came
years
out.
ago,
What? Starfield came out
barely.
last year?
Yeah,
2024 is when Starfield
yeah.
came out? No,
Or
no, no,
no,
it would've been
2023 of
23.
December,
Yeah.
I think.
So you
Yeah,
gotta think that game came out, so this game's probably been about a year of full development because it doesn't seem like they're doing a whole lot with Starfield. That game came out even if they were working on DLC to some degree, a significant portion of the staff would have moved to Elder Scrolls 6. So you're thinking,
yeah.
what, 23? Yeah, so they're saying about 5 years about 4 to 5 years of development on this game. You gotta think the first year is a lot of pre-development stuff,
Mhm.
and then they're full in about 4 full years of actual proper development's probably going on in this
Yeah.
game, and that's just my assumption. I don't know how much, pre-production they had worked out beforehand, but I mean, yeah, about 4 to 5 years you'd expect them to actually be working on this game to make it. It'd be nice if it came out sooner, and I think there's a strong possibility of this game. So you're thinking like what, add 5 years on 23, 2028. I think there's a good chance this game comes out 2029, between 2028 and 2030.
Yeah.
Because you have to assume there's a good chance this game may get pushed to the right and delayed. So you're thinking
It's funny.
realistically, this is going to be whatever the Xbox One, the next Xbox going to be called, and it'll be like a PlayStation 7 type game essentially. Because
Yeah,
they say
it's
they
funny. I
number
was
their
I was gonna
consoles.
say I didn't even expect this till 2030 before you said that. So
Or
yeah, I
sorry,
mean,
like a PS6
6.
because we're
Yeah.
on the 5 right now. So I think it's essentially based off of current gen. This is going to be a next gen game for when it actually comes out.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to be cross because it's, you got a good 4 years before the next console comes out, probably.
Yeah.
3-4 years. So you got to think they're working on it with a lot of knowledge of this current console, and then decently into development here in the next probably year or two. They're going to get, specs from the next gen consoles. So it'll probably be a cross-platform game just based off the window and the development cycle. But yeah, this is 100% going to be a next gen game at this point, assuming that the 2028 window makes sense. I think it lines up perfectly with probably what we're going to get the next gen console. Because by 2028, it'll have been 8 years since we got the current for console hardware.
Yep,
it lines up right there, 7-8 years, depending on what they're going to actually do.
Yeah, we'll definitely be on. We'll definitely be on next gen. I mean,
look at 2056.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, no doubt.
They say as far as this leak, because we didn't actually talk about the actual leak. They say at least a dozen large cities, whatever that it means. Ideally, hopefully they're larger than Skyrim, because the game's great, but some of the towns feel way too small. Especially when you look at games that came out around there, mainly The Witcher. Obviously, it's less interactive, but it just feels like an actual proper cities in those games.
Mm-hmm.
They say naval battles. They say Starfield like shipbuilding, and Skyrim's dragons, among other elements. So the dragons make sense because we're expecting it takes place after. So obviously, dragons for the longest time, if you don't know about the lore, were relevant to Skyrim for hundreds of years at the very least, if not a few thousand years. I don't remember the timelines of some of the lore stuff, but like the Dragonborn was there to kill Alduin, not like necessarily all the dragons and stuff like that. So that doesn't surprise me. It's just I assume they're not going to be a focus or as relevant just wandering around the world. They might be like mini bosses or something like that. I guess we'll see. But the idea of larger cities, and assuming that this leak is true, shipbuilding is going to be more relevant, I think gives more credence if we're going back to it's not Hammerfell, but the whole Hammerfell High Isle region, essentially.
Yeah.
What we had for Elder Scrolls 2, essentially. We're essentially going back to that region where water is a big. That's really the only one of the few areas where water is like relevant to that map. If it's that region, outside of just like the whole coastal stuff,
right?
At least when I remember, because I guess technically Cyrodiil around the Imperial City, but with Elder Scrolls 4, they kind of definitely shrunk down that map super small. Or it's hard to tell what they're trying to do, because obviously what they may have had thought of back in 2015 may have changed or evolved. The idea is with the technology we're at now, they could probably do maybe not all of Sky or not all of Tamriel, but multiple regions would be definitely interesting.
That would be sick.
Outside of ESO, it's not really been a thing since the first Elder Scrolls game. I guess a little bit of Daggerfall too, but
yeah, there was Elder Scrolls. What was it? Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. For the Engage, had like obviously it's a small game. Elder Scrolls Pocket,
or is it the? I only know.
Yeah, I have to look it up.
I guess
I'm trying to remember. It was the first Engage game I had. Elder Scrolls.
Shadow Key.
Yeah, Shadow Key.
But that was more like that wasn't in Tamriel. That was like a realm of Oblivion that game took place in.
I'm looking here to check.
Unless there was another one. I thought that was the first Engage one.
There's another. There's Travels.
Yeah, but I didn't think those were Engages, were they? Or was
no, that's not an Engage game. Oh, Shadow Key is the only Travel Shadow Key, whatever. Is the only Engage game as far as I'm aware. Yeah. Redguard, there's Redguard, Battle Spire.
Yeah, because Redguard was Todd Howard's first game, and it was a weird pirate game type
game.
It
was a weird
had nothing to do with every other game since. And I understand people that go back and play it now, it's not the best game out there, period. But
no, Redguard's pretty awful. Legends, Online. Yeah, I don't know. I was just looking at the spinoffs here.
So you think this game's going to come out on Skyrim's 20th birthday then? It's 20th anniversary? We get the Super Deluxe Special Edition alongside Elder Scrolls 6 pre-order edition.
Wait, 20th anniversary? We're already past that. What are you talking about?
No.
Yeah,
it's like 14 years old at this point.
Elder Scrolls?
No, Skyrim is what I meant.
Oh, Skyrim. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
So Skyrim
I thought you were talking about Elder Scrolls. I'm like, what?
Hey, this game's coming out in 2031, 20 years, which would be an insane gap between Elder Scrolls games.
I don't know. We're looking at just 5 years. 29. Am I doing the 5?
Or I think it'll be
6,
14 years
28?
this November. I think it'll be 14. Yeah. So we
Hmm.
just passed its 13th anniversary past November.
I know it's a possibility. I mean, it could get delayed. Who knows? Like, I don't know. Our PS6 and whatever the next Xbox, our development units out there for it, like stuff like that.
If this comes out in 2031, that's going to come out when the PS6 Pro comes out.
That's a possibility. No, seriously though, that's a good question. Are development units out there for the PS6, like to developers and stuff like that?
I mean, if you go back off of what we had for previous cycles, we're about another 4 or so years away, about 2028. So you would assume
the
next year or two, they're not out now. They'll be out in the next year or two.
Yeah.
By 2026.
Yeah.
If you think 2028, 2026 would be what, 2 years away, they'd have to have something by that point. So at least their first party developers could start working on games and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would think that they're probably out there, but if not, like you said, they got to be out in the next year because they want to have games ready to go, right? Like,
yeah,
they
got to have the standard. What, it came out last year, so 4 years for the Half-Life upgrade, what we consider the Pro. So you're thinking 2028, about 8 years has been the standard for a long time. The whole 7-8 years.
Yeah. And the only thing that makes me question that is just because of the PS5 Pro and stuff. But I mean,
I don't know how well it's actually been doing compared to the 5, though.
Well, I mean, they got to be
doing healthy.
The company's got to be developing for it, is what I'm saying. That's
all. Yeah, but that midlife upgrade's never gonna match the sales of the base model.
No, not even close.
Mainly for hardcore gamers or people that are really into it. Most people aren't gonna pick it up, and I know you picked it up. I've largely saw it as like a
at this point, just get a PC.
Not worth the bang for the buck. Unless you're getting like almost the full price of your base PS5 for trade-in value, it's just not worth it.
I gotta say, I can't recommend. The only reason that I say this is because PCs are, they aren't cheap to get into. Even if you get a low-end PC today, I mean, it's not necessarily cheap to get into. It's still you're still looking at more than the price of a PS6.
You think of what you can, like, a PC does more than just gaming, realistically. So
if you get a $700 PC, even, you know what I mean?
That's like a low end, but you can still
do
decent
really
gaming
low end now.
Like $800 to $1,000 can do 1080p gaming for most stuff, even a lot of modern stuff. Because a lot of it comes down to like where's the money at?
Do you want to do 1080p gaming or do you want to do
graphics?
4K gaming? You know what I mean? Like it just depends on what you're trying to do on your TV, on just like your base.
Most people probably don't even have 4K TV, so it's irrelevant.
At this point, I think like everybody, you can get them for like $150 now. I mean, I got mine for $200.
So, I mean, most people aren't 2 years ago 4K. Like the hardware costs for a PC to game at 4K is unaffordable for the vast majority of people.
Yeah, on PC for monitors,
$2,000 plus, and you're not really gonna have the same quality. Even you have 4K at 30 FPS, like it's not the same at like
it's not
90
it's not
to 100
the same.
FPS.
Like it is.
I'd rather have a higher frame rate at 10 to 1440p than 4K.
You know what's funny is that me too. I would rather have a higher frame rate. I think we're actually the minority in that. I think that when you think about like console gamers. Like they're all about 4K, I think they're all about the way that it looks. They're like, like the average 1%er.
But that's like that whole 4K thing is nothing more than a marketing gimmick at the end of the day. It has no impact on your gaming experience. The frame rate does have an impact on your gaming.
It does.
Experience.
4K looks good.
It's 4K. I'm gonna play Avowed or Veilguard at 4K, and I'm still gonna hate the game either way. So what's the point? Who cares if it's in 4K? If the game is fun to play.
I mean,
I'm playing like 2012 games. Like
with my monitor, I opted for a super high refresh rate, 1440p over 4K for both of my main monitors.
It's more affordable, and it's just a better experience.
Well, I say affordable. These weren't particularly cheap, but it's like I opted for what I thought was the better move for me. You know what I mean? Like I care more about frame rate and refresh rate and stuff like that. Like I think most hardcore gamers probably do. But I think like the average person, they're all like, how good does this look on my TV with the console? You know what I'm saying? Like I just think that's kind of the look because I see it in like groups and
I'll say this, because even if you're getting a 4K experience on a console, it's not native 4K, it's upscaled 4K, which it's still not the same thing.
Yeah.
And because we talk about the DLSS and the different upscaling and stuff like that, and that's great, but you also see it when the developers use it as a crutch to just put less effort into the game. So it's not even proper
Yep.
upscaling. It's upscaling 720p to a 4K or something like that. Or there's other issues that you've run into where they just rely on DLSS during the development process, not put their best foot forward.
Well, what
Compared to
game just came out
if they
where that
put their
happened?
best games out there and then they use DLSS, it would be a far better experience for the average user.
What was the game that just came out like in the past couple weeks?
Avowed.
Was it Avowed that did that?
That's the only big one that I know of, that, or at least that I've heard of. If
I
there
think
was another one,
else
I'm
that
not
was
sure.
like semi good, but they were like leaning on. I don't know. There's so many games that come out now, but
Because I
that
know
was a
the
big
game that
game
comes
I was
out,
thinking of.
next week?
Oh,
The
Monster
Monster
Hunter.
Hunter game.
That's the
It's
game
not
I'm
out
thinking
yet.
of.
Oh, because it wasn't out yet. It's
Yeah.
like lower end PC
Beta.
has issues based off of how the game was
Yeah.
developed for either consoles first and then upscaled high end PCs, because the hardware can just make up for the deficiencies. But there's a consistency issue as far as quality with lower end PCs, from what some people were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, because they
Or if you have like a
did rely on
4080, a
that,
4090, you won't have a problem. But if you've got like a 3060, you're gonna have issues with the game or performance issues.
Yeah, so I can't. I think you're going to be fine. Obviously, with 47, you have 4070 Ti or whatever. Just regular.
The only thing my PC really absolutely probably needs is more
than
32 gigs of RAM.
I don't think you're gonna. I thought you had 64.
I haven't upgraded yet.
Oh, I thought you did a while ago. My bad.
I mean, I need to upgrade. I just haven't got around to it. It's just not a part. It's not a priority. So it's just
I get it.
Pushed the way it says those stuff. I gotta pay.
I think most people. I don't even know if most people care, like the average player, but
I think
I
most people don't care for a lot of stuff. They just want a fun game to play that looks good and is a very smooth experience. That's why I said the whole 4K stuff. It's more of a marketing gimmick, and most people, if they can't afford it, they don't care. As long as the game's fun, the graphics I think are kind of negligible for most people.
That's a gameplay at the end of the day. It's about having fun at the end of the day. I mean, like I hate what I hate is like the PC snobs that 5090 only, baby. Like I see it in the groups, PC Master Race.
The guy who's all in on finding a 5090 saying, "Oh man,
it's actually, pretty glad I didn't, because we're going to talk about it a little bit later. But now I don't feel so bad about trying to find it. And I only wanted to because
early adoption has its drawbacks.
It does. You're right. It does. It really does.
You don't have time to tweak out all the bugs sometimes, so it's always a risk.
So true. Yeah, I know that this is true. I learned that with the PS5 Pro and all that with the PSSR, and that was to be expected. I guess I should have thought about that beforehand, but hey, whatever.
I mean, I tried to learn, I guess, in a different way. I was like, I was like, all right, whatever. But it was your money, so.
All right, next I threw this in here because of you mostly, but obviously
allegedly.
Yeah. Fortnite is crossing over with Cowboy Bebop, so I just thought this was interesting. We don't care about Fortnite, but
I threw up in my mouth just a little bit.
Are you surprised though? They've crossed over to everything.
No.
So
is this good Cowboy Bebop, or is this dog off or dog?
This
trash,
is good Cowboy Bebop.
Live action Cowboy Bebop.
Nah, they quit promoting that movie a while ago. I think they gave up on that right away.
I don't know how you butcher like that. It's
I was
beat up and then swing and a miss.
Yeah, that was a big swing and a miss. No, this is good Cowboy Bebop. So I just thought it was interesting because it's kind of my hope is that maybe this gets excitement out there a little bit more for Cowboy Bebop, just because it's such a good series. So there's gonna be a lot of kids and stuff that play and have no idea what it is, or even younger adult, people much younger than us that just don't know what it is. So
I was about to say, I don't know if Cowboy Bebop's more for kids, but at least
not for kids, definitely not for kids. But that's why that was kind of correct in that there.
It's in Fortnite, but I mean, then again, I don't. Fortnite's a great game. I don't care for it, but I had the same mindset for Minecraft when it came out and it was popular. So
yeah. Mr. Coffee said at this point, what hasn't been on Fortnite? No, that's a great point. They're running out of things to collab with.
That's a bingo game right there. What hasn't been on Fortnite?
Oh, that is a good.
I was going to say
game,
your mom, but
what
that joke's never going to not be funny to me.
Oh boy.
I know we're going off on a tangent. You remember that show? I think it was on MTV or something like that, where they had that
Yo
whole
Mama.
Yo Mama show where they
Yeah,
would
I
like go back
remember.
and forth with
Oh
the
yeah.
jokes.
That was pretty funny.
Oh my god. I
That
feel
was
like I'm old at this point. When did that come
Oh,
out?
there's one I wanted to say, but I can't say it. Never mind. So it's the first one I think of when I think of that about hold on, I was
Oh
gonna
my
say it
god.
anyway.
Guess what year this came out on MTV? The Yo Mama TV series on MTV.
2005.
Oh, you're close. It ran from 06 to 07.
Yeah, I knew it was
3 seasons.
there around that
Oh my
area. I was just trying to think in my
oh my
head
god,
around.
there's kids in high school that were born in 2006,
Isn't that
2007.
crazy, bro?
They're
Dude,
graduating
that's
high school right now
wild.
that have been born with that probably were born when the show was coming out. That's insane.
It's wild to think of. Yeah, just makes us feel a little bit
You're
older,
old.
you know. But
That's like my
future.
parents are like, "You're not old."
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
65. Roar.
Hey, they do say 60 is the new 40, so that's why I hear. You know, I don't know. But future collaborations are rumored to be Demon Slayer and Like a Dragon. So that's cool. You know, if they up the properties a little bit, people
Yeah,
look into
there's a
it.
lot of money there for these
Oh,
studios as
for
well.
sure. And I get why they do it. I understand. I mean, you got to take the bag.
It's all money at the end of the day. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a business.
Yeah, for sure. Mr. Coffee said, "Did you get your free copy of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 for mobile?" I didn't even know that was a thing.
You play those games on the phone?
That'd be awfully hard to
That
do.
sounds well, you need like one of the controller adapters probably to properly play the game, but that sounds god awful actually.
Sounds a little rough, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm not a mobile gamer either, so like I'm not the
I'm not
best
marketing
person.
this, but the larger screen for the 16 Pro Max, it's nice. It'd be a little bit easier to play the game, but
I've
it's
got
only
the
17-inch screen.
14 Pro Max, and it feels small to me.
It is small compared to the new ones.
Oh, is it smaller than the 16 Pro Max?
How big is the 16 Pro Max screen?
I thought it was the same size. I thought they kept with the same size.
Oh, this thing is massive.
I mean, people say mine's massive, but to me, it just feels like a phone.
The 16 Pro Max is a 6.9-inch diagonally.
What's a 14?
The 14 Pro Max is 6.7 inches diagonally. So it's pretty much.
And yours is what?
The 16 Pro Max.
No, I mean yours is how big?
6.9. Yeah.
Oh, so it is slightly.
So it's
bigger,
it's negligibly bigger, but
gotcha. Okay.
And then I've always got an OtterBox, so it's always bigger.
Yeah, I got one on mine too. Yeah, interesting to know about that. That mobile. I have to look into that after. I missed that. I don't know if he just tweeted it or whatever, but interesting. Get fun on a nice sized tablet with a controller. That's a good point. Yeah, on a tablet, I can definitely see.
Yeah,
that.
sometimes you think of like mobile stuff with a tablet.
I don't ever think of tablet because I don't have a tablet that
if you don't have like a Bluetooth controller or one that you snap on the sides, you have all that god awful stuff on screen. I don't even know if that goes away. That I think is distracting for the game. Like the controls on screen with like the whole you drag the thumb around.
Oh, those, yeah.
Like that's the biggest.
Well, a lot of people just hook up a Bluetooth controller. Like you can do that too.
But it worked for a tablet. But with the phone, you're probably just better off getting the one that snaps on it itself.
Yeah, like the PlayStation or Xbox version,
like a Switch or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do people that do that, and I get why. Like, for instance, compatibility as far as playing on your phone is actually better than like playing on the PlayStation Portal, for instance. Like I tested it myself. Somebody else is saying this. I tested it. I'm like, this runs really well on my phone. Like I see why people do this. I get it. Like
well, the hardware on the phones has gotten really, really good, especially when you consider realistically like what the one that I have. It's like a $1,600 phone. But considering you're paying over a span of like 3 years, it's really affordable. With the way the mobile phone stuff works. So like, to be fair, like this is far more expensive than any like gaming tablet you're going to buy.
Oh yeah.
Like that. The hardware is so well thought out and stuff like that. So if it's properly designed for what it's on, obviously gaming's not like a number one priority, but there's a lot of technology shoved into these modern phones.
For sure.
I think they're not cheap. Even the cheap ones are probably close to like $1,000 realistically. Is how much they're being sold for. And there's some markup on that because they can get away with it because you're paying like $10 a month or something like that, $15, $20 a month. but it's not like these aren't the cheapest things that are out there. So
for sure.
The technology is probably equivalent from what you're getting in a I don't know why I kept thinking like the Switch, but like a Steam Deck. It's just different technology with different things in mind first. So gaming is not like a first and foremost, but it's definitely because of mobile gaming. It's the thought's still somewhat there.
What's crazy is not that it matters in such a small device, but like I think about it, and it's like you think about the Portal or the Steam Deck or the Asus ROG Ally or whatever. These are 4K devices. You can play. There's actual 4K gaming you can do on these. So
they shove a lot of technology in those phones. They make a lot of money off of it, so they put a lot of money back into it. And because it used to be 2 years, now it's 3 years for the upgrade that you spend paying off on the device. You're not eating that cost up front, so you don't really tend to think about these being extremely expensive pieces of hardware.
Yeah, they
especially
really are,
with the new. Well, because the chips are getting so small and so advanced, as well as you got to think they're starting to put AI in these phones as well to help supplement some other stuff. There's a lot of stuff that are crammed into it, but literally everyone has one. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they make a lot of money.
It's interesting to think about. A game I don't give a crap about, although I would have liked to have kind of cared about it. Tales of the Shire has been delayed yet again.
I'm not surprised.
Initial delay from a 2024 launch to March 2025. And now it's delayed to July 29th.
I mean, if anything else,
the game looked horrible.
They could just delay the game forever. Like, I don't know who this game is for. It doesn't look. It looks so cheap, and
it looks cheap. That's the thing.
Looks like
it looks like a budget game.
It's like the Unreal Engine stock stuff that they just put into this game. Is really what it looks like.
It looks like
100%. This game's made in Unreal Engine 5.
To me, it looked like a mobile game. That's how it looked to me.
Yeah, that's why I said Unreal Engine. It just looks like it looks like a cheap game.
Yeah, it looks awful. I think
what Lord of the Rings fan wants this? You have other games like the whole was it like the Shadow of Mordor stuff like that.
There's good games
and
out
then you go to this cutesy game.
Yeah, it's
like nobody asked for this.
I mean, you look at the screenshots on this article, like, oh my god, they look so bad, like worse than I remembered from a few months ago. Yeah, there we go.
You have some of them on
got them on screen for anybody watching live or checking the video out.
It looks cheap. Like, it looks like a mobile game. It looks like the ads for a mobile game.
Worse than mobile games. I mean, I get mobile game ads that look better than this.
I mean, those don't even play like the actual games, but that's the quality. It looks like mobile game, like it's designed for like a phone or a tablet.
Mr. Coffee said it looks like a mobile game too. Yeah, this looks really bad.
5.
Wow, that is so bad. Oh my god, that makes Unreal Engine 5 look really bad too. It's interesting. July 29th, so that's a while away if you care about that one, but figure I'd mention it there since that was news this week. Next one,
all 20 people will be really upset.
Next one we got is Samurai Pizza Cats. This is called Blast from the Past. Sorry, video game was announced, which was really interesting. It's from a 1990s anime. So this is pretty cool stuff here. I'm definitely excited about this. We'll check out the trailer real quick for that here. I do have that pulled up. We're watching it beforehand.
Going back to 1976 anime.
This is when anime was peak. It's peak anime.
I'd say I don't know. I'd say late 80s was peak anime. Late 80s, early 90s.
You said 1976. Yeah, no.
I don't know about
80s for sure. 80s
being a little hyperbolic with that. I think the 70s is what.
I didn't actually mean 76.
That's that whole not Mega Man, but Robot Boy animation. That's like from the 50s.
No, this is straight Mega Man animation. I mean, it's the same guy that
I could see this. It has the 90s, 80s animation style to it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just really random and cool to see,
especially when they transition to the actual gameplay and how it actually looks pretty good to like this type of graphics and stuff like that.
Yeah, the game looks really good. We haven't transitioned over to the actual gameplay yet, but it's really cool to see.
I think we're almost there.
Yeah.
Almost looked like some kind of like mech fight about ready to go.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just know when you play this game, you always have to end your word with
Look at
meow
this.
because they're cats.
This looks so good. Like this looks.
Mixing like the old graphics with the new graphics,
Oh
like
my
the old
gosh.
animation style.
Yeah, it just looks so fun. Like I'm really excited about this. If this gets a physical release, because right now we don't have confirmation of that.
What
I'm
was the
assuming it
last?
probably will, but
I mean, could you think like this could be like the next? What's it? The Cuphead game with the old style, but how
oh
it's
yeah,
really good. Because it's you feel like obviously it's not one from, but it's taking the inspiration from like old animation and throwing that into an actual game as we get
yeah.
some people that want to run for whatever reason.
I'm so mad. Didn't click
Yeah,
off
right.
soon enough. Mr. Coffee said maybe it was a totally different game that was mobile only, and they needed to release something that is dwarf, so they converted a farming dwarf game into a Lord of the Rings game. That's a good point. Maybe it was.
Possibility like, oh, this isn't going to sell. Let's just put a new skin over it, and then everyone just hates on it anyways. Instead of just being ignored, it gets hates
And
on.
I'll keep hating.
They're hoping the hate will drive a few more people to pick up the game.
That art style is unique. Reminds me of when I first saw Cuphead. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good, one for one. I don't know if it's the same. It looked far more like a platformer than what that game was. Even though there's some similarities, it looks more like an old style platformer type game,
which I personally prefer over Cuphead.
Maybe a
Cuphead's
little less
great.
brutally difficult.
Yeah, it's just brutally. It's way too difficult for me. Like I played it a multitude of times, but
one of those platforming side scroller games is what it really reminded me of with Cuphead. It's not like an exact genre, but that's what it felt more. This feels more like a straight platformer essentially.
Yeah, because Cuphead had a lot more shooting and stuff involved, which I love. Yeah. But it was too difficult. I couldn't do it. Did you play it?
Oh, you hear like an hour of it. To be fair,
yeah, it's hard. Man.
Brandon's not a gamer.
You just said an hour of it.
It's more than you played.
No, bro, I played that game like probably 15 to 20 times.
Or no, you didn't.
I don't remember twice.
Oh, sorry. You said it was too hard. That's why you're not a gamer. I remember. Exactly, I knew there was a reason. I immediately forgot it. But
yeah. Oh, funny stuff.
It's just one of those games you pick up and play. Oh, this is fun, and then you just never pick it up again for no reason. It's just kind of what happened with that game.
Yeah, Marcus says it looks great. Yeah, it really looks good for sure. So this next one,
it just sucks. The game it comes out next year, so you have at least another year to wait.
Yeah, that's all right. We got a lot of games coming out this year, so that's good stuff. So we got this next game, Where Winds Meet. So I'll just preface this with saying before we talk about one of the other articles later, this is another game from NetEase, so it's a Chinese developed game.
That's coming in for the win.
Yeah, they're coming in with the wins, man. So it's similar to Black Myth Wukong, apparently. Probably another AAA game from China where Winds Meet also takes place in an open world and features action RPG elements. So this looks pretty cool. When I think of the name Where Winds Meet, I instantly think of oh god, what's the PlayStation game? Why is this the samurai game? Why is it escaping?
I know
because of the winds, you use the winds to guide you and stuff like that. So I instantly think of that.
You mean Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh, that's really loud.
Dang ads. I'm telling you, man. They're gonna.
I was trying to just make everyone go deaf for a second.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Surprise.
Audio listeners, apologies. Might edit that out there. But yeah, so this looks pretty cool. Open world RPG. I mean, the Chinese games that have been coming out, Chinese developed games have been like bangers. There's a couple that we've talked about here recently where they look good. The PlayStation
they're just showcase. Doing what Western devs won't do, and that's give people what they want that actually looks good and plays good.
I mean, I never thought I'd say this, but even like we're not even getting, I feel like, as many top-notch Japanese developed games where it doesn't feel on the same level.
They've largely followed the same trend as the Western devs. Just
I think that's because
a lot of them have moved studios over to like the US and stuff like that.
I think it's because of studios that PlayStation and Xbox own, and
They've moved them all to like California on the West Coast and places in the US and in Europe and stuff like that. So you start getting that you get less of those actual Japanese games because they're not developed by Japanese players. So why people went to those studios for games, well, then they like, oh, it's getting popular, let's move it over so we don't give you what you wanted and why you came here in the first place was a game. We enjoyed the games made for the Japanese domestic market. We just wanted those. We wanted to play those types of games, and you started making unnecessary changes that nobody asked for.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a great way to put it. I just never thought I would say like, we're just not getting the Japanese games like that where I care as much. Because those are always the games I prefer the most, especially when it comes to like RPGs, JRPGs, stuff like that. But
yeah,
we're just not getting it on the same scale. We're just not. Like that's just the truth. I mean, unfortunately, that's the case. So the Chinese studios have taken that, like you said, and ran with it, and they've been putting out some bangers. So I mean, I'm here for it. Whatever. I don't really care who's putting out the games as long as they're good.
Because you've also seen it as well with the what's it, the Mitsai game or whatever it was. It's another horror game came out by the Russian developers. So it's like two good games have now come out by Russia. It's that Mitsai and the other one I can't remember off the top of my head.
There's the Phantom Blade Zero game that's coming out here soon. I think it's like next year, but it might be next year, end of this year. I forget, but that's another Chinese developed game. What's the one that's like a Stellar Blade that we're both wanting to play?
Oh, I know what you're
Wu-Chang.
You think it's something like Wu-Chang or something like that.
Yeah. So there's that one that's coming out, and then the ones from the PlayStation Showcase.
Yeah, I think I'd have to dig too hard for the other game that's similar to the Mitsai horror game, but
yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot coming out, and what's the one that we just talked about last week that was shown at the PlayStation Showcase? What's that called again?
Oh, I have to pull it back up.
I forget. I feel bad that I forget this.
Yeah, you asked me, and I just didn't have
any games. No, you're good.
Because I was gonna try to pull it up and see if the right thing came up. Because what do you have?
It's the one that's set in Britain. I think Britain.
Tides of Annihilation, is that the right one?
I think it's it. Yeah, Tides of Annihilation.
I think it's one of what looks the closest like that.
Yeah, it's like a set in Britain, but it's Chinese developed game, which is really interesting. So I'm
making a better British game than the British are.
Yeah, accents, everything. I mean, they must have got British voice actors because that sounds good.
Easy.
Yeah, for sure. So that's pretty cool stuff there. Definitely looking forward to seeing more about that, but it's supposed to come out this year. So it says worldwide release for 2025. So next, we got Among Us 3D launching for PC and VR players together. And looks like Among Us in 3D. So if you want to see more of that, you can look more into that. But I did watch
the original game, so
I played it a few times because I played on stream once. It's fine for what it is, but I got bored with it pretty quick.
It's repetitive. It's more you just have to play with a bunch of friends. Really, that's where the fun comes in. Not trying to be meta with a bunch of other people.
Yeah, if you're like playing it on stream, you're playing it with friends. Like it's pretty enjoyable. Like it's like a hide and seek type game. You
kind of like it's got the whole it's like an arcade style game as far as like the games and how long they can be and stuff like that. So
yeah,
you have to find your own fun and with the replayability because after a while you could definitely see the formula getting old after a while.
Yeah, I played it a few times, and I got the concept, and it's pretty fun for what it is, especially when you're playing with friends. And I think I played it mobile the first time and played with a couple friends. It's pretty fun, but the concept got it wore thin pretty quick. Next, we got a rumor that Rocksteady could be working on a Batman Beyond game. Rumored to be a PlayStation exclusive and possibly funded by Sony. What's your take on this before I say anything?
Don't screw it up if you're actually going to do this. Because the Batman Beyond's an old show, but it's got a really good legacy that's I'd say lasts to this day.
Finally, Warriors Suicide Squad. We had that in the Arkham franchise, and it's like, whew, what a rough way to fall there with Warner Brothers Studios. I want this to be great because we think about the other Arkham games, even Arkham VR that just came out, and like it's getting praised kind of across the board. And you think about obviously like the main 3 games, and I guess Arkham Origins stuff too. Yeah. I mean, I would want this to be great because Batman Beyond is my favorite. Like, I think about the comics and the cartoon, and I just always love the suit design and the kind of cyberpunk-esque city and things that are going on. Like, just the futuristic approach to Batman, and how Bruce Wayne is still there and stuff like that. It's just like a cool concept to me. It's like here's the legacy of Batman continuing, and I'd love to see this in video game form. I think it'd be cool. But I don't trust WB with anything. The Suicide Squad stuff threw me off there, where it's like, why are you even counting this as like an Arkham game? This is not.
They don't have the best track record.
Yeah, no, they certainly do not. But yeah, I mean, I loved this cartoon so much.
Considering how old this is, and I think it still holds up to today.
Oh yeah, 100%. I watched the movie, whatever it is, the Joker movie, not that long ago. I've got it on VHS too. So
now you got to go back and watch this. Talk about it on when we get around to doing the other podcast.
The Batman Beyond Joker movie. What's it called? I forget what the subtitle's called, but
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, good stuff. I mean, it'd be cool to see, but they lost so much on Suicide Squad that
if they're gonna turn it into another Suicide Squad, I would say just don't bother.
Yeah, Mr. Coffee said, "Do you trust that Rocksteady could do a good Batman game? The last 2 games Rocksteady made sucked." No, I mean, do I trust them? No, I don't trust any.
If they're gonna do Batman Beyond, it needs to play like the Batman Arkham games. Because if it's not like that, I think it would just
exactly. It's got to play exactly like those first 3 games. It's so important to me.
To some degree, you have to use a formula that works, that people want to play. Obviously, you need a new spin on. You don't want the same copy paste type game, but
yeah,
a game like that, take that formula with a new spin and stuff like that would be amazing.
Give us all the new like futuristic gadgets. You know how they were super, notorious for like all the cool.
Make it look like the cartoon with graphically for all I care. Yeah, you just want a fun game.
Yeah, as long as it's a fun game. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's.
Oh no! Now you got to choose what's Batman's pronouns now?
There are 2 Jokers, or 2 versions of Joker returns. Interesting. I did not know that. That's cool.
DC's done so much with Batman. It's just like, all right, what universe are we in now? What version of Batman is this / Joker?
One that was edited for general audience, one released on uncut DVD release. I don't know. I've got the VHS for it, never on the DVD, so maybe I haven't
assume the VHS one's the uncut one, but it's hard to tell.
If it is, I've seen that, but that's all.
I remember when they did that for like Naruto, because it would have the sticker like on Cartoon Network, but it was like Naruto uncut. You're like, I don't know why.
Yeah, they did that for
it wasn't even
Dragon Ball Z tapes. Do you remember that? The tapes were always like the. Yeah, I'm like, what the heck? Like this is
like more like a marketing ploy. They did such minor editing for stuff that didn't really need to be edited.
Yeah,
they edit it so that they could sell the VHS. Like, it's uncut. You're like, oh my god, here's $50 for an episode.
That was that's a great point. That was kind of like the ploy with buying. I mean, like,
I'm just saying, it makes sense to me that they would do that as a marketing ploy to sell physical.
No, it makes sense. I actually never thought about it that way, but it was always that with the Dragon Ball Z tapes. That was why I wanted to buy those. Like, seeing the real thing that was in Japan here,
oh my god, what are those tentacles? Tentacles don't belong in, I don't know, whatever Naruto we're talking about. Get out of here.
Oh Lord. We got Sony is testing new
there we go. I got him laughing.
Testing new PS5 firmware update. I got a notification about this, or I got an email about it probably like 3 days ago or something like that. I haven't checked it yet, but
do we know what like major updates, or is it just behind the scenes stuff largely?
This is it. Made it simpler to view details about activities. Activity details are now fully displayed on cards. Potential spoilers will now be hidden. Unicode 16 emojis are now supported. You can use them in your messages. When you set the parental controls restriction to late teens or older, communication will now be default to restrict. We've improved software system performance and stability. We've improved the messages and usability on screens. That's it.
So largely not a whole lot really changes for the vast majority of people using this.
No, but you get like a whole beta code sent to you and everything. I got it sent to me. I'm like,
I just don't think it's really all that worth it. You see this, you're like, okay, so it's essentially nobody cares about the vast majority of this. Okay.
Like, why am I getting sent a beta code for this? Because this is kind of silly to me. Like, what am I testing?
Joke's on you. It's going to prick your PlayStation.
I wouldn't be surprised anymore. Would not be surprised at all.
Like, oops, well, we're not going to give you a new one, so.
It's kind of brutal there, Mr. Coffee.
Because you said yes to this 20, 30, 40 page thing that you didn't read to the terms of service.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised about anything anymore. Wouldn't be surprised about
terms of service. Let's be real.
No.
South Park did a whole episode that nobody reads the terms of service with Apple and stuff. You remember the episode?
No, I don't remember
it's
that.
The Human Centipede episode, where they make fun of the
name
Human
and everything.
Centipede. Because it was a really funny episode where they take it where like everyone reads it and always says no because like you consent to Apple taking you and so in your mouth do the butt of somebody else for the whole Human Centipede is really disgusting me, but they use that to kind of make fun of both that parody of that movie and the idea that nobody ever actually really reads terms of service, so they can just hide whatever they want in there. I mean, let's be fair. Just because you agree to the terms of service doesn't mean the terms of service are like legally binding. You could go to court and still win because of like
you can
stupid. Yeah,
that was legally binding.
No, like let's be fair.
Because you're agreeing.
You and somebody else could write a contract for a business, but because of how certain things are worded or what you put in there, it could conflict other laws, and they could just null and void a contract. Just because you sign a contract doesn't mean it's legally binding. You could take it to court and have them verify whether or not this is actual like a legit thing. I saw that, Mr. Coffee.
The cuttlefish.
The cuttlefish.
What's that mean?
If you know, you'd have to watch the episode. I don't know.
I'm have to check it out. And then we got some more crap from limited run games this week. Not really necessarily surprised, but so the other day, Monday, Tuesday, came out with that Rugrats game that came out. They did the NES cartridges for it because it was an NES style game. Came out that the like voltages on the cart could ruin your either NES or the cartridge. So
because a lot of that's very sensitive to electricity. You could short circuit it, and it's not the easiest thing to fix.
Yeah, so they came out and said that the supplier is the reason for the NES carts. So
nobody actually tested this after the fact.
Apparently not. So
are the suppliers going to buy you a new console?
Here's kind of the short. Here's what they said. So basically, they came out and said that yes, this was an issue. They kind of came out right away because I saw the time extension article come out, and then like a few hours later, it seemed like Limited Run Games came out with a tweet that I saw that they addressed the issue. They said they are going to replace everybody's cartridges that bought one. They're going to send it out automatically, is what they're saying. So anybody that bought that is automatically going to get it. If you ordered the collector's edition, which hasn't shipped yet, obviously you know how like the collector's editions are. They don't come out for like a year.
Ideally, replace those before they ship them.
They're offering whether they want to have that shipped at like a later date or whatever. Like we can send out the collector's edition before. They've done this before. Like Nintendo even did it with let me think. I think it was Xenoblade Chronicles 3. They like sent out the collector's edition first and then sent out the game later. So like you didn't get it in your collector's edition,
which just baffles me. Like how you can't, address that.
The thing is that like most of these people don't open these, right? Like most of people don't like
they're gonna collect it and put it on a shelf. They're like, yeah, I can get more money for this later.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. Yeah, like sell this later type deal. But
because I'm sure a lot of these people they'll buy like the collectors and the regular physical probably separately, so they can have one sealed and one they can play or something like that, or they'll just buy the collectors and not care.
Yeah, so there's also the game Pew Pow that it came out. Both these carts are apparently bad from like the same. So apparently it went to a manufacturer they don't normally go to, is what they're saying. And that this manufacturer did not test that stuff, and they're basically saying this is on them. We don't normally go to them, but this is on them. They said
hopefully you shouldn't go to them again. But
yeah, upon learning about this issue from our community, we immediately began investigating and can confirm that due to an issue with voltage regulation, there is a small chance of prolonged use of these titles could result in the damage to either the cartridge or the console hardware. So those are their exact words. Company further said that the manufacturer behind these cards only worked on a very small handful of titles. We don't know what other titles that
Then why'd you go with them?
I don't know, because they didn't expect anybody to open the NES game and put it in their system. Probably they probably didn't expect anybody. They know dang well that their audience, like 75% of them, don't open any of the games that they sell.
They're gonna seal it.
That's why
they're gonna resell it on eBay.
That's why when like they did the 3DO games and stuff, they did burnt discs instead of like actual pressed discs. They sent out actual CDRs. Like in these games. So like they've got
somebody tried to play it
recently.
And they're like, what is this?
Yeah. They got caught recently doing that. I mean, that was just last year, you know. So I mean, it's limited run games. It's like, yeah, they're doing a lot of cool things, especially with like I like seeing like the TurboGrafx games and stuff come out in physical and like different stuff like that. But it's like same time, man, they do a lot of scummy crap. So
yeah, they don't verify what's going on, or it's like, oh, you need good, reputation, and this just doesn't do that.
No, that's not good. People, there are people that buy these games to play them. You know, that is what you're supposed to do with games. So you gotta check your games. Mr. Coffee said the D2 game CDR press disc, they've been screwed up big time. Yeah, I mean it's crazy stuff, man. Mark, you want to get in this next one here with the Valve?
Yeah, so this is less about the game, but this was an article published on the 13th. So it was technically last week by PC Gamer, where this is like word for word for the head title. Avowed's low frame rates, but smooth feeling gameplay makes me wonder if we PC gamers worry too much about the numbers. By Nick Evanson. Because I think this is, first of all, I don't really care about Avowed. I didn't pick it up. I don't plan on picking it up or playing it. The game's kind of flopping on its own, and the numbers show that, at least on Steam DB. This is more about the idea of, well, just accept the subpar slop that we feed you and just buy. Don't think, just buy. It's like, this is the most brain dead. I'm sorry, if you've ever played a game at 120 frames per second and then at 25 to 30 frames per second, it's not the same experience.
They're kind of gaslighting us with this article a little bit.
Yeah, but like, just because Avowed isn't optimized properly, it's like, oh well, don't worry about like, oh yeah, let me play
it's this your
20
fault
frames per second
for caring about these frames on PC, Mark.
If you think you hate games journalists or journalists in general, you don't hate them enough, because you see stuff like this, I'm like, oh my god, like who thought that this was a good idea? That's
crazy.
This feels more like rage baiting to get people to go read the article, but like this is a brain dead take, because realistically, we've talked about it before, old retro games, like they always ran fast and smooth.
Always, yeah.
They were always above a 30 FPS. I get early 3D. It's a weird transition.
I mean, even some of them run at 60 back then, dude.
But the idea that console gaming is fine at 30 FPS and not 60, because that's like really the big. Once you get above 60, it's not the biggest jump compared to 30 to 60, as far as like how smooth the gameplay experience is. But like it's not the same thing. Like 30 is playable, but when you know you've got hardware that can easily play a game higher than that, there's
no reason that
this is just more reasons to just I want to say give a break, because sometimes this is probably not always the developer themselves, but the studio or the studio heads. But the fact that we can just not put our best foot forward, put subpar games out there from performance to the game itself, and just expect people to buy it, and when they don't, we put our blood, sweat, and tears into this game. Like, well, I don't care if you put your blood, sweat into it. You made a bad game. I'm not going to buy it. I can put my blood, sweat, and tears into anything else, and if the product's still garbage, I'm going to lose my job. And
it doesn't mean somebody's got to care because you put your blood, sweat, and tears.
It doesn't matter.
You know what I mean?
People, it doesn't matter for whether it's gaming or it's movies or it's some cheap Chinese crap you bought at Walmart. If you put out a bad product, nobody wants to buy it, and they're not gonna buy it. They don't care how much effort you put into it. The outcome is the only thing that matters to the consumer. If the consumer isn't happy with what they have, it doesn't matter whether you put 10 hours or 100,000 hours into it. I'm kind of exaggerating into it. Like, it doesn't matter, because nobody's going to like it. They're going to talk bad, and your product's not going to sell. The consumer experience is ultimately what matters.
Nobody's got to care.
You see this all the time on social media with some of these developers, and probably not the vast majority, but there are some of the heads that come out there and complain all the time. oh, the chuds or whatever their insult they feel like they want to throw at people that they didn't buy their game. I'm like, well, you put a game out. It doesn't matter what you think of the game. If the consumer is unhappy, it doesn't matter. There's a reason the idea that the customer is always right exists.
Yeah.
It's technically the customer isn't always right, but the concept that, if you don't make something that the consumer doesn't want or the consumer doesn't like, they're not going to buy your product, and you're going to go out of business, or you're going to lose your job, or you're going to have to change how you address it. Because every time you make a product, you always have to think of, like, you should always be thinking, like, what does the customer want? Are we going to make something that's going to sell? And if you're not making something that's not going to sell, it's bad business, because you're going to lose money, or you're not going to make as much money as you want. And I think this is just, I don't know, this article kind of goes down that whole route of, like, well, we don't want to put our best foot forward. The developers don't want to make money, but they want to not put as much effort into it. And I think it's just selfish, and I think to some degree it shows the journalists are in bed with the studios.
Yep.
And it's like, well, we made this massive game, we had to cut back. I'm like, well, if you made this massive game and the experience isn't fun, maybe you need to cut back, or maybe this open world type game isn't, the direction you should be going to. Not every game needs this massive open world style game if it's going to drive up development costs, and it's still going to be a subpar experience, even when on the technical side. Like, maybe the more linear games kind of had it right, and you could tell a more coherent story. You didn't need as much development cost, and you could, because you didn't need as much stuff rendering at one time, the game could just perform better. Like, I maybe games don't need to be open world 60-hour games. You can make a 15-hour single player game that people will enjoy and love, and you can, even if it's not replayable, you've sold X amount of copies, you made money, your development costs were significantly lower, and it just, generally just a good game.
Yeah, I
think
agree.
That concept has kind of been lost. It just feels like open worlds became this massive trend. Now every game needs to be an open world, which,
and it doesn't.
If you've ever played a lot of JRPGs, some are open world, some are kind of linear. They're linear with a lot of side quests, but a linear game can help you with pacing and just generally tell a more coherent, in-depth story. Where with an open world, you have to take the concept that everyone's going to be playing the story at a different pace when you add in side quests and how you deal with the main story and stuff like that. Well, if you can do it in different areas, how do you structure or think about it? There's just a lot more that goes into the development cost of a game and the development time of a game that not every game needs to be like that.
I agree. And it's like, do you not think about when you have an open world game, you obviously got way more that you have to take into account, that the game's got to be able to run at all. You know what I mean? Like, the game is just a bigger game. You have to take this into account. Mr. Coffee brings up a good point. He said, about selling between a $70 to $100 game. Like, you're wanting $70 for your game, now as a standard. I expect a little bit more, actually. And as these games are getting more expensive, I expect a little more from these games.
Yeah, because it's been said about GTA 5. It's like, well, we want that to break that $100. I'm like, or GTA 6 to break that $100 barrier. I'm like, GTA 6 probably will be worth the $100. And you hear from everybody else, like, your game's not worth the $70. What makes you think people are going to buy your slop at $100?
Yeah,
it just means the less people are going to buy your game. Hopefully, that $30 offsets enough for it to not matter.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure.
Is your game a $100 game for value? Because 100%, your game's not going to be the level of GTA 6. GTA 6, they can probably sell it at $50 and still make money because of GTA Online brings in so much money.
Dude, they can give that game away, fair. They'll make money, but I mean, honestly, like they could. It's like $1 billion game, right?
Yeah, and if you're into the PC market,
or something crazy,
yeah, and if you're into the PC market, especially on Steam, you're probably only buying maybe major games you absolutely want to play at the price that they come out in. Most of these games, you're like, well, I can get it for, if I wait a year or two or a few years on top of the backlog, I can get this game for $20-$30 and it's going to be a better deal for me.
Yeah, I mean,
especially if they don't fix the problems in the game initially. So
yeah,
unless it's a live service game, then you just SOL when it goes offline. But
Concord, as we speak. I mean, that's what I think of when you're talking about the blood, sweat, and tears and stuff into a game and things like that. Like, I remember some of the stuff that was coming out about Concord. It's like, they took that game down in like a week, something crazy like that.
It was like up 2 weeks, something like that. But like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you put out a bad product, the consumer doesn't care how much effort some people might virtue signal online, like, oh, that was so good. But at the end of the day, the vast majority, like 99% of people, could not care less about the development process, the
They
development
shouldn't
cost.
have to.
They just want a good product, and they shouldn't have to. That's your responsibility to worry about that. That's your boss's responsibility,
Nobody has
HR
to
and your
care about your
managers.
product at the
The
end of the day.
consumer
Nobody's
just
gonna
doesn't care.
Nobody
Yeah.
has to care, and to think that somebody does have to care, or to
It's one of those things.
gaslight somebody
It's like,
for
I'm not the developer. My job isn't online. Why should I care? It's not. I'm not going to care. People don't care.
yeah,
People.
it's
I
crazy.
mean, people are inherently selfish to some degree, but it's like, why should I have to think about your job and then just enjoy something that I don't actually enjoy, just so you can keep your job and keep putting out more and more games that I don't enjoy playing?
Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man.
I feel like we just rant on this all day.
Nah, we didn't talk about it that long. All right, so I guess first, for this, we've got the RTX 5070 Ti just came out, so that's out if you can even get it. It's already being scalped and stuff like that for crappy. Sorry, I was garbage graphic card. But if you do care about that, there are people out there that care about that. I understand. Then it is
It's okay,
out there
Brandon.
now.
We know you're one of those. You don't have to hide it.
5070. Yeah, right. No thanks. That's terrible downgrade. And apparently the 5090s, some of them that have been coming out, Zotac RTX 5090 GPUs and the Founders Edition, are resulting in a performance degrade for recent ones that have been shipped out. So
yeah, this is
not
unsurprising.
ROP stands for
this. No.
Yeah. Okay.
But this reminds me of what happened with the early 13th and 14th gen CPUs, because it happened to me where a lot of them were faulty to where they would start within like a month or two or a few months, they would start degrading to the point where you had to ratchet down the cores to essentially you
had to get yours replaced.
Yeah, luckily it was still under warranty at the time. But it just feels like it's with newer technology, they're not testing it as much. Obviously, there's a lot more room for error with the more kind of technology you're cramming into it. It's just more room for error with as things get more complex. It's easier for things to go wrong. But it's just one of those things where it's like, did they really do it, or it's like, maybe 5% will be bad, and 5% of 100 people is 5. It's not the worst. 5% of 10,000. There's a level of scale there where this could be a bigger problem than it actually is, just because most people that could be by this that fine, but 5% of 1,000 is like 500, or 5% is like 50 or something. Depending on it all, there's a level of scale, because even at 1% of like a million people is like what, like 1,000, something like that. If my math isn't completely jacked up.
5% of what?
Yeah, but it's the idea that the overall percentage of these could be bad, but it's it's the scale of the percentages and stuff like that.
For sure.
But regardless, it still shouldn't happen. But to them, they're like, it's a acceptable risk, both in product and in potential reputation damage that we can overcome. Yeah. So it's hard to tell exactly what the issue is, or if this is just a small percentage, but still a large number that's running into this issue.
It's crazy that this is with partner cards and with Founders Edition cards. So that's interesting.
It could be the other issue that they're like, in the manufacturing process, they're like, it's a relatively small issue. We'll just deal with them as they come in and just replace them or something else. Or
I guess my tip for anybody that's bought any recently, I guess, to test the cards.
Well, with anything like this, you should always be careful and get a warranty for stuff this expensive. Any technology on a computer, always, because you usually have two warranties. You've got the manufacturer warranty and you've got the store that you bought it from warranty.
Yeah,
and obviously you should be knowing though that's like a general. Anytime you buy something expensive, usually for me it's like over $100. That's when I start looking at like the warranty, how long they last. I'm like, okay, let me take this into account and stuff like that. Because sometimes, like this card, the store warranty might last for, let's say, a month or 6 months, but the actual warranty of the actual manufacturer may still be good for 12 months or something like that. So it's good to kind of know where you stand on how long you have before anything breaks. Because usually, like with a technology like this, if it's good for about a year, it's not usually going to just break all of a sudden unless you've done something to it or something kind of
for sure
catastrophically goes bad or gets short circuited. If it's broken out the box, you're going to know fairly soon. Once you can have it under a consistent load, if something's bad, it's gonna go bad fairly quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
Generally speaking, at the very
I was
least.
looking up. So there's 8 ROP units missing, which stands for raster operations pipelines, which works with workloads and graphically intensive processes such as anti-aliasing, depth testing, color, and blending operations. So, yeah, I mean, it apparently does make a noticeable difference according to what I'm reading. So, yeah, I mean, definitely test your cards. There's software out there to test.
Test them, because it usually tests them under load consistently for X amount of time to see if you're coming back. And even then, it could be fine now, but a few weeks or a month later, something could start to go bad just because of maybe the connection wasn't perfect or the hardware kind of goes bad. So just you're testing it when you first get it and stuff like that, and then it usually under load if you're playing a game or something like that, or you're doing rendering or whatever you're doing. Eventually, if there's a immediate issue, you're going to notice it pretty quickly with fairly consistent degradation over like the span of a few days or a few weeks. For sure, and be careful not to burn your house down with these cards as well, because it's possibilities. That's to be fair. Most computers, unless you go in and turn it off, if it hits a certain temperature limit, it's just going to shut off your PC.
Realistically, it's just going to burn the connector, which is happening.
Certain operating systems, if they develop an issue like a short circuit or the hardware gets too hot, like with Windows, if your PC gets too hot, Windows will just auto detect that and shut it off completely.
That's supposed to happen. There's supposed to be a preventative measure in these cards that's supposed to make sure that the connector doesn't burn, because it happened with 40 series cards too when they first launched.
Well, that's how it's supposed to happen, unless something
catastrophic
goes wrong.
So they changed
your
the
PC
connector.
is supposed to just hard shut off. I might be getting it wrong, but even within the operating system itself, it's supposed to be, because it's your PC monitors all your stuff, because you can usually pull that up. If something within the BIOS detects something wrong with your PC, or it's going to be catastrophic, or it hits a certain limit, it's supposed to shut your computer off, shut it off.
This is supposed to happen with the cards are, it's supposed to be a preventative measure that prevents, because 40 series cards, it did happen to quite a few people. There's a lot of reports out there. There's a lot of YouTube videos where you can even look at burned connectors that happen with the 40 series cards. There is supposed to be a preventative measure in there that's supposed to prevent this from happening. But here we are again with a brand new connector that they put out specifically for this card. And now the connectors are apparently worse than the 40 series cards. And
it's just a reason not to be an early adopter, because if there's going to be issues, let them fix the
I don't even know that it's just that. Like, they changed the connector pins. There's in-depth videos that you can watch about why this is happening, and it makes sense. Like, when you watch, I'm not smart enough to explain it in a good way to put it on here, but I don't know. It's interesting to see. I'm just kind of watching behind the scenes and keeping up with it a little bit, mostly talk about it and stuff like that. But it's kind of crazy, man. Kind of crazy, especially something that expensive. Like you would expect stuff like that not to happen, but here we are.
Because at the end of the day, it's probably a minority of cards this can happen to, and they just don't care really. At the end of the day, like, whatever, we'll just replace it, deal with any financial issues, and then just kind of move forward.
Yeah,
they have X amount of their budget set aside for issues like this that they can financially deal with, so they're expecting some level of issue. And they're like, well, once it comes out, we'll address it in the manufacturing process, and then just kind of keep moving forward. Which means they probably already knew this was a potential issue to begin with. It would not surprise me if they knew this was a something that could go wrong.
For sure.
But the whole cost analysis says it's not worth to address it right now. It'll cost more money, so we'll just deal with this and then just just kind of move forward.
Pretty much, yeah. Warranties are always good, to get with stuff like this. But depending on where you're buying it or whatever, warranty is always good. So, next we got, let's see, latest Nintendo Music update is 3DS throwbacks. So they put the Street Pass and Meat Plaza soundtrack on Nintendo Music. It seems like they're updating that about every week or something. They're
something new they're bringing in. Just an intentional steady stream to people to keep coming back to the app of new.
It's a neat little service. I put it on a few times because there's some pretty cool.
Yeah,
stuff.
You don't pay for it. Just I think you just log into your account and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, I already pay for whatever subscription I get.
Yeah,
from
you
Nintendo,
gotta
so
Switch online, but if you have that, then you're good. Which it's just a neat little additional thing. I threw it on a couple of times and was listening to like the Breath of the Wild soundtrack, and I forget what they added last week. There was something I was listening to, so it's a neat little thing. It's supposed to be like a little Spotify type deal for Nintendo, so it's pretty cool.
Not the worst thing out there in the world.
Yeah, for sure. So we got an analyst predicts price of Nintendo Switch 2. Predicted it costs $399. That's kind of what I've been saying.
I think that's what we kind of came around to and stuff like that.
400.
I feel like they've been talking about this for a while. Right around probably that 400 just makes sense financially compared to where everything's at and what we're kind of expecting hardware wise. It would make sense to be, a little bit more on the expensive side, just to be able to run better games. And I'm sure they'll come out with another light version, handheld only. It'll be probably closer to 300 or something like that, or 250 or whatever they're going to price it at.
Yeah, for sure. It says Nintendo is not overly concerned about competing subscription services or PC-based competitors. I mean, I've been saying
they're in their own market. They've been there for a while. You buy a Nintendo game for Nintendo games,
right? For sure.
And if you happen to get a third party because it's going to be cheaper than any other gaming handle that's out there, it's a plus for maybe slightly lower performance that you get on screen. But most people are going to buy this, and they're buying it for Nintendo games. Especially if you've got the money and you already have like a PC or a PlayStation or an Xbox, you're getting the Switch anyways. Or if you're maybe a parent getting it for a kid, the kid's not going to know any better, and they're just going to be happy with what they have to play.
You know, I was thinking about the other day because of the PSSR stuff and where they're still trying to figure that out and kind of work around since it's a proprietary thing. I really hope that the DLSS with Nintendo Switch 2 is not like a proprietary thing they got to work around, because that'd be a not a great situation. I assume that these people have had, a development unit for quite some time. That's, that's developing around that, but still it doesn't matter. I mean, they could have had the PS5 Pro development kits for 4 years since, before that, they already knew that the PS5 Pro was going to be a thing at that point. They had to have known 4 years just to develop the console. They had to have known when that launched, PS5 Pro is already going to be coming out. So my hope is that they're not trying to do a proprietary version of DLSS, because I just feel like it's not the move, man. If they, learning anything from this situation is that you've got to grow this machine learning here, and that's the problem, right? Like at launch, it's going to be a shoddy situation because people aren't going to be knowing what they're working with development wise, and as far as updating games and stuff like that, it's just like a whole mess, man. So my hope is that that's not the case. But at $400, it feels like there's barely room to not be losing money even there. Like
they have to think it's dry. Like they can't price it too low and lose too much money, because your games are only going to make so much money, and some of those studios do need the money to then make other projects and stuff like that. Yeah. So you got to think this is they have to balance the line of how much money they're going to make versus lose and stuff like that. Yep. But I as far as like some of the DLSS and other proprietary stuff, I don't even know if we're going to know that when they announce the Switch. That's just going to be something we're going to have to learn.
I don't even know that they're going to advertise it, like make it.
I don't think they would. I think we would just find about it once people have the actual hardware in hand.
They don't really like advertise advertise the hardware. You know what I mean? Like they've never been about. Except when like the GameCube had like powered by whatever it said on the console. I don't know if you remember that little sticker on there where it said powered by, and the Wii had it too.
I don't think
you remember that. To it. Yeah, well, like that's the only thing I can think of. But they don't really like advertise the hardware. They haven't done that since like the Super Nintendo or something. Maybe they did.
They've not been in that race for a while now. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not one to do that. So I don't even know if they'll put like DLSS or anything in any marketing or like any type of stuff they're putting out there for the Switch 2. I don't know that they'll do that. Like we know it's there, but like I don't think that the majority of people are even going to know it's in the handheld.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to tell at this point.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so moving on to some other stuff. We got some bigger news now for this week. We got the NetEase CEO reportedly is cutting funding for a dozen studios, won't support any marketing for Nagashi's and other Japanese-made games. This is kind of crazy. This is wild. So NetEase made waves in the wrong ways when it decided to lay off developers at its Western Marvel rival studio, despite the fact that the game was a hit with over 40 million players to date.
From what I understood, that was not the. It was a different. They weren't really the ones actually making the game. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but that they weren't like the primary developers. It was just a different part of the studio that they just didn't care to keep open anymore.
Really?
Yeah, like that. Like this game was primarily wasn't developed because this was an office out of like Washington or Seattle or something like that.
Okay. All right. So the development side, it was more of, like you're saying, more of the people working on the other stuff with the game on the Western side.
Yeah, I was trying to pull it up real quick. Exactly what the studio did.
Yeah, I don't know. That it still seems wild with the way that game's making so much money and has so many players, but it's interesting for sure.
So this was the actual statement they actually put out. I guess I'll read the whole thing. We recently made the difficult decision to adjust Marvel Rivals' development team structure for organizational reasons and to optimize development efficiency for the game. This resulted in a reduction of a design team based in Seattle that is part of a larger global design function in support of Marvel Rivals. We appreciate the hard work and dedication of those affected and will be treating them confidently and be treating them confidentially, confidentially or confidentiality or whatever, and respectfully with recognition for their individual contributions. We want to reassure our fan base that the core development team for Marvel Rivals, which continues to be led by lead producer Wei Kong Wu and game creative director Gangyum Chin, which I probably butchered somewhat in was it Gaojian, China, remains fully committed to developing an exceptional experience. We are investing more and not less into the evolution and growth of this game. We're excited to deliver new superhero characters, maps, features, and content to ensure an engaging live service experience for our worldwide player base. So essentially, this was just one of probably a few design teams out of Seattle. Like this wasn't like them making the game. This is just something in the periphery, and whatever reason they just didn't care. They're probably not going to release the exact issues behind this. But that was more. It wasn't like a main development. This was like a design team based out of Seattle.
Well, this report comes from Bloomberg and says that the Chinese company suffered many abrupt changes mandated by its founder and CEO William Ding, who cut hundreds of jobs, suddenly pulled back its massive foreign investment. As a reminder of the last few years, NetEase has invested in many studios based in North America, Europe, Japan, and so forth. So the studios affected by this are, which is kind of crazy. Some of these are kind of big. Behavior Interactive, Suda51's Grasshopper Manufacturer, Nagashi Studio, Quantic Dream, Rebel Wolves, Skybox Labs, Jar of Sparks, Jackalyptic Games, T-Minus Zero, Worlds Untold, and Fantastic Pixel Castle. Lord. Jar of Sparks and Worlds Untold already had their fundings cut by NetEase a few months ago, and the heads are now desperately looking for another publisher and source of funding. Visions of Mana director Yuka Studios was also shut down despite the game's launched positive reviews, which, it was kind of crazy. That shut down, I think, right when the game came out, like 2 days later, they just got shut down before the game even had time to sell anything.
And this wouldn't be a surprise. They're just for whatever reason they just want to make certain changes to the structure. They want to change different studios, move stuff around. Like that's not super abnormal. I mean, the games industry is a little bit different, but I mean, when you deal with new locations, new studios, they're for whatever reason they're seeing information and they're thinking about different things in a way that we don't have access to, and so they just decide to make certain changes. I don't know how, because I mean, financially, I think NetEase is well off, but they could just decide financially, this studio just isn't worth the money. We don't need them. We don't want a studio over here anymore. And for whatever X, Y, and Z international reason or whatever else, they just want to make changes on.
You know what I actually think? I actually think that Marvel Rivals' success could actually have something to do with this, which is not necessarily a positive thing, because that could mean, hey, we want to do more games like this. Which we don't want.
These studios make sense. We're getting pushback
game
from
like this I could care about at all.
Because these people out of Seattle give us X, Y, and Z pushback. We don't like it. gamers are voting with their wallets and they want this. So we just, all right, well, what you're doing, nobody cares for. So we're just going to close you or move your studio somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. Like let's be fair, they're seeing internal numbers that we just don't have access to.
Yeah.
Even successful companies could be like, well, we want to move stuff around, or it's cheaper to have
stuff make more money.
Yeah, like you're making us money, but we can make more money putting this studio here, just closing the studio down. We don't necessarily need.
Let's make less single player games. Let's make more.
Like, let's be fair,
games.
All these studios are a business and they're trying to maximize their profit and maximize the value for their investors. So that ideally you want to make a decision based off of that, especially if you're like, we need this studio? Can we close it down to make more money? Like it's sometimes to the player base it doesn't make sense, but to somebody looking at numbers, it makes perfect sense. Whether that's the right decision in the end, only time will tell. But like these are businesses trying to make as much money as possible. And when let's be fair, like the heads, like it's more than just numbers, but it's largely you're looking at numbers and you're trying to make a decision that makes that makes the most decision for your business and stuff like that. So
yeah, for sure.
Money runs the world. So at the end of the day, like it's a business, they're about making money. You'd assume you're gonna make a decision based off of what profits the company the best long term, but it's hard to tell. At least to what gets reported on and what people may think as a consumer, it doesn't make sense, but to a businessman in an office in a boardroom, it makes perfect sense.
My hope is that it's not the case of where I'm thinking of. It's like seeing the success of Marvel Rivals. Let's do more games like that because we crapped on that game so hard, like we really did, and we thought it was going to be another Concord. Like,
well, you've gotten how many Marvel and DC games that have just kind of
we don't
duds?
Yeah, my thought is we don't need another game like Overwatch. Like we don't need that. But then like you play the game, it's like a little bit, I get it. It's a little bit different. Like normally, I probably wouldn't feel that way because games like that I just don't care about. But games a little bit different. It's pretty fun, and my hope is that it's not where they're thinking they need more of those games though, because we don't need more of them. That's for sure. We definitely don't need more of them. Like Marvel Rivals is good. Overwatch 2 is garbage. Replace that for like 99% of the player base. So we're good with the Marvel Rivals. We don't need more. Next we got the announcement of Call of Duty and the TMT bundles. So we got a trailer here to check out for that.
I thought this ad for a second. I don't know why.
What is it?
I thought it was like an ad before the actual commercial or the trailer. Whatever. Look at that. I don't know how to feel about this. Sometimes it's just like it's neat, but like, does it really make sense for Call of Duty? Like they're trying to do a whole Fortnite thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. They're trying to do the
Fortnite. It's not
thing.
like,
and they're already in Fortnite. So
I don't know. Call of Duty is just not the same game it was, with Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 1 and stuff like that.
Well, it definitely isn't now with adding this, because this is available in like the standard Black Ops 6 game apparently.
I mean, it makes more sense than having Nicki Minaj in Call of Duty, but I think it makes as much sense as that does. But I don't care for that.
Maybe that makes a little
I don't really
more
play
sense
Call of Duty anymore.
That's a human being, So, yeah, I don't know.
This just feels like they're just tracing the Fortnite trend at the end of the day. It really feels like
it really does.
Fortnite does this and it makes money, but like Fortnite's a whole different game. So.
But the problem comes down that the bundle costs $90 total, $20 per skin. So like if you want one character, it's $20, which is crazy to me. Because like I can't catch myself spending $20 on a skin to begin with. But you want the whole thing, it's $90. It's crazy, man, to me. I mean, I get that the Warzone portion is a free-to-play game. But the other is not. Like, I don't play Warzone. Like, I occasionally play.
I guess you have to think
Black
that
Ops 6. I played in like 3 months, but since
people that play Warzone probably don't care about the campaign, so they just treat it like a free to play. So they're going to price the cosmetics like a free to play game.
Yeah, I mean, if you only play Black Ops 6, which isn't free to play, then it's you still got to spend another $90. Sorry, you spent $70 on the game. Here's $90 if you want this package. I'm gonna throw this out here. There's more of this to come,
Yeah. So hopefully you're playing the game enough to where you'll get your monies out of it while you're playing the game before the next game comes out.
My question is, does this have something to do with the collaboration costs? Because like Fortnite did it, and it's a free game, and I don't remember seeing any reports where it costs anywhere near that. That I'm aware
know.
of.
I mean, kind of like we talked about before, that they're just trying to maximize how much money they can make. That people are willing to pay for it because the development cost to them is probably negligible for this. They're like, all right, whatever. Let's just chart if people. We just need X amount of people that are willing to pay this much money for it, and we'll just say, well, it'll just be there. We'll sell it for a limited time, and then if we make the money, that was worth the money.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, man. Yeah, I don't know. It's just wild. Apparently, all 4 turtles were bundled together in Fortnite for roughly $32. So 32 versus 90
for 4 skins, essentially.
32.
That's the price of a game.
That's a big. What is it?
Like, that's the price of a game. So you better just be playing this game religiously to be able to make that money worth it. Essentially,
that's what I'm thinking. Like, you got to really, this got to be like your only game, to really care.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody'll say that it'll be worth the money. For me, I was like, nah, that's just
absolutely
that's too much
not.
money.
Absolutely not.
Unless I made like $500,000 a year, and I just I didn't care for money. But
yeah, for sure. Paul Jean 1337 says I wouldn't, but I'm assuming by that. Mark, do you like TMNT?
Not really. I like the live action movies, but I never really got into the cartoon or the games.
Yeah, fair enough.
But that's just me. It always felt like it was like a little before my time is what it felt like. By the time we were growing up, the Ninja Turtles just weren't like the big, hot, relevant thing anymore. It felt like a late 80s, early 90s thing.
Well, I mean, you had the 80s cartoon. Really, it didn't become relevant again until like 2003 when one of the new series came out. So at that point, we're already like, what? How old would we have been? Like 10?
Something like that. By like, around 2002.
So I was starting to not, care about some of that stuff, I guess. At 10, I don't know. But I forget what I was doing at 10. So next we got Niantic is reportedly selling Pokemon Go. And its entire games unit. So talks are reportedly on with a Saudi Arabia company named Scopely Incorporated for around $3.5 billion. This comes after multiple failures to recreate Pokemon Go's success. What you thought?
Well, then they just
they
got lucky with the game, but I mean, then it always felt like the game was kind of mismanaged for the longest time. But like, let's be fair, like you're never gonna relive that. Was it the 2016 success when it came out? Whenever it came out, like you were never gonna re-peak that. It was always gonna dip, and then you have to find that mobile service game. How do you keep the game relevant?
It was the first of its kind too, so that's why it hit off. Like there was no other game really like that,
and it was a Pokemon game, so
yeah,
like, you had the IP around it. But like, to be fair, I get the idea if you want to get out and stay active with some of these games, but for what I really noticed was a lot of changes made post COVID.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, we want you to go out again, and people are like, well, no, I want to be able to play this game from like my home or something like that, largely, and especially with like a lot of the raids and stuff like that. So I think like getting out and being active is great, but like you have to make this game playable for people that want to be lazy. And like, to be fair, if you're not walking around, the spawn rates for Pokemon is abhorrent. If you don't live in a major metro city and you're not out walking around a lot, the game is very kind of like a pain to play. Like if you're just sitting at home, you want to play, you can't really do a whole lot with it.
That's what I've heard. I mean, I haven't played the game. Like I haven't cared about the game for a long, long time.
It's not a bad game.
It's just when it first came out. To be honest,
there's a lot of restrictions. Either because you can play this game free to play largely, and it's fine. But unless you live in a metro area or you don't mind going out and walking around, that's great. But a lot of people that play this game want to be kind of lazy a lot of the times, and you can't really play this game and just sit at home.
Yeah, I don't. So is there like a subsection of people that still want it to be like COVID Pokemon?
I'm sure there are, because I think the main change was to some of the raid stuff and stuff.
That kind of takes away one of the elements from the game. Like the whole
people want to play it like any other Pokemon game. They just want to stay at home and play a game on like a mobile game or something like that. So
lazy people want to do that.
Hey man, that's the world you live in. So
fat neck beards, man.
You live in a society.
Yeah, wild. But yeah, no, I mean, Interesting that it's a Saudi Arabia company. They've got all the money in the world, so
Well,
that's
yeah,
not
that's why
shocking at all.
they're willing to buy it and stuff like
I mean,
that.
they're putting all these
I feel like
big
this game
boxing
still.
events, and
We don't have the numbers in front of us, but I feel like this game still does well. But to be fair, it could just be a consistent downward trend. But it's a mobile game. It's like this game can't cost that much money for you just to maintain where it's at outside like some of the servers and
I
stuff
agree
like
with
that.
that. I think it's still
But
making
I don't
money,
know.
but I'm sure, especially since like TCG Pocket came out, I'm sure that no, not the same type of game at all, but it doesn't matter. It's Pokemon. I'm
It's the same
sure
player
there's still a
base.
lot of people that got transferred straight over to that. And it's like, here's another game that can suck my money. A lot of people spending money on that. Let me switch over to this. I don't need two
You don't need to
Pokemon
be
mobile
active. You can
games.
just play it and stuff like that. Open some of the cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it's a different game, but yeah, I could see where some people are like,
Yeah.
I want to play this game now. You're not. I don't know what major changes they've made to Pokemon Go. Like if you feel like if you want to reinvigorate a lot of people back into that game, you need to make a massive overhaul of how the game actually works and
For
plays,
sure.
and give people a reason to actually play the game.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that for sure.
Plus, you also got to remember this game came out around the same time that the Let's Go games did as well, so it had multiple things going for it. As a free-to-play game, it comes out with those games. There's incentive because there's crossover for Pokemon Home and Pokemon Go and some other stuff like that. But yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, sticking on the Pokemon topic, we got the announcement of the Pokemon Day Direct, which, according to some people, was not expected, but like I kind of expected it based on recent years and stuff that we've had happen. But there's kind of some interesting stuff that came out because the same day that we got the Pokemon Day Direct announcement, actually day before, I apologize, I remember seeing that Cerebri on Twitter and then like some other accounts were covering a apparent rumor, which we've been wondering for a while, why some of the original games were not on Switch Online. And then a rumor came out that a Pokemon port collection was going to be coming out with generations 1 through 3 collectively on one cartridge. So that was really interesting to see, because I was like, what are they doing? Like, we've been wondering for a while, what's going on with that? Why are those not on there? It's so simple to add those on Switch Online. That would actually make a lot of sense. We talked about this before, but it seemed like kind of, at least to me, it seemed like a far-fetched idea at this point, because Nintendo, we thought maybe they could sell the games individually, because they could do that and they would still sell. They could sell the games individually. But yeah, I mean, so we got this announcement for February 27th, and this is with the anniversary of Pokemon Red and Green's original Japanese release, so that's interesting. I guess
this is next Thursday.
Yeah. I really
a lot to talk about next week.
Yeah, I know that's gonna be a big one. I assume. I imagine it's probably gonna be a big one. This is gonna be a big thing to talk about. But yeah, I mean, I guess before you get into some of the like rumor stuff and things that I guess people are expecting, what are you wanting to see or expecting or anticipating?
The only
from
big
this
thing is the ZA that expecting. Like, what I'd want to see, some more of their games start to come to the Switch Online. Some of the older games, maybe not even the remakes, just old versions of games that used to be on the 3DS. But what we expect is at least that, and then obviously some people are talking about probably some Pokemon Go, Pokemon Unite stuff, maybe some of the show stuff and stuff like that. But the only big thing you're probably going to hear about is the ZA information.
So you don't think we'll see the ports collection? You don't think that'll happen?
It'd be nice. I'm just with their track record, I'm not expecting it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to, because it seems like they wouldn't do a generation 1 through 3 on a cartridge, single cartridge. Like, it just doesn't feel very Nintendo like to do a collection like that, especially like such a big collection. I mean, because you're looking at all those games, Pokemon, Red, Blue, Yellow,
like bring all your games to this console. It's not going to hurt your other games.
It's not going to do it. I mean, it would be cool. I mean, I would be the first to buy that collection, because that would be amazing. Yeah. 1 through 3 generation,
just brings all back to one thing. It makes sense for Pokemon Home and other stuff like that. But for whatever reason, they want to drip feed games and stuff like that. Especially now that the national Dex in games isn't a thing, there's no reason to not get these old games and stuff like that.
And this will be playable. Right. If they do that, this will be playable on the Switch too. So that's great. I mean, that's great news because bring it forward, and there's no complaints for that console generation that we don't have any of these old games again.
Yeah,
you can't really complain about it. I mean, I think it would be amazing to see them. Obviously, be very doable all in one cartridge. It's very doable. Very small games at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I mean, that'd be interesting to see. But I guess some of the things that are kind of rumored. You brought up some of the stuff like the stuff, filler stuff, Cafe Remix, Masters EX, Sleep seems like happens every single time.
To be fair.
Yeah. Then we got Pokemon TCG Pocket. People are expecting to see some stuff there for that. I assume that that's definitely going to be in there. It would seem
you expect to hear some kind of update on all the mobile games and stuff like that. Everything's going to get something, but are we going to get what people actually want, which is ZA and any old games coming back
for sure,
Switch and Switch 2 and stuff like that.
According to known leakers, Centro Leaks, which we've covered a lot of their stuff because they've leaked out all kinds of stuff, stuff that wasn't supposed to be out there and things like that. I've tagged in like 100 things from them because it's really interesting to see some of that stuff. But according to them, Gen 10 is currently being developed for Switch 2 as well as the original Switch. The game's reportedly set to take place over a archipelago of islands, as internally known as Pokemon.
Archipelago.
That's the word you're looking for. Okay. Never heard that word before. I learn something every day. Known as Pokemon Gaia. Well, it's been 3 years since Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It's released later this year. Seems unlikely that Generation 10 will be announced at Pokemon Day 2025, according to the Direct.com. So I don't know. Could happen, could not happen. And this is apparently the year of Eevee, which I've seen a whole bunch of merch out there for Eevee for this year. Interesting, kind of, I guess, with all the evolutions, kind of cool. A little neat, I guess.
And maybe they'll talk about the whole problem with their Pokemon card stuff as well.
The scalping? Did you see people camping out for the packs that came out today? They came out today. The prismatic evolution or whatever.
Yeah, it's I haven't seen it personally, but I mean, obviously you see it online and stuff like that. And you're like, this is a problem. I don't know how they address
disgusting.
This, but
you got these adults camping outside of GameStop and these different stores for these, so nobody else can buy them. And it's like you see the videos of people going after the boxes and stuff like that. I'm like, this is crazy.
I mean, the main problem is people that are buying the scalping prices, and you have a lot of people, especially on social, like that run accounts and like, oh, I bought X amount of boxes, knowing 100% bought those at scalp prices, but because they make a lot of money off of opening cards and stuff like that. And like, this is just making this hobby inaccessible to most people because people are just trying to scalp and make money off of it.
Yeah, it's pretty gross, pretty annoying.
Like, all this, I mean, who knows? Like, I don't think the hobby's gonna go away, but it just feels like you're just gonna eventually start driving people away when the average person can't even get packs.
Drove me away.
Like it's like, well, like it's what's the point getting into the hobby where it's hyper focused on people that are spending way too much money on stuff that's definitely overvalued.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it drove me away. We talked about it a few weeks ago. I'm like, I'm just good with TCG Pocket because this is ridiculous. This is not fun.
I think it's part of the reason
TCG go to Pocket 3 stores and you can't find
100%. That's why that game became a thing. Is because of the scalping is just so.
I believe that. Yeah, I mean, it's a it addresses something the community people want to open up. Mystery packs and stuff.
The problem is I don't know how you actually address that problem of scalping.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people are doing it with
outside of just
the online. Wait.
Well, the only way you could really combat it is you just have to massively flood the market with so much to where it just devalues the.
I mean, stores need to place a limit, which a lot of them
they don't care because they're just making money.
Well, a lot of them do. Like GameStop has a limit, and I saw where people could only buy one.
They also don't get that many boxes, and realistically, to be fair,
they don't. They really don't.
They have to put a limit.
My GameStop never has any of the new stuff. My GameStop does not even have anything from like the last. Well,
because they get bought out immediately because they get a box in, and then that's not that many. And then
I tried to get that
sold out.
Charizard box that you got. Couldn't find it anywhere. Couldn't find it anywhere.
The only thing my GameStop still have is the actual Charizard.
I wanted that. I was like, that looks really cool, but nobody had it. GameStop, Walmart, nobody had it. So I was like, that's a bummer because that looked really cool.
It is a problem. I think it's just a larger problem, but it's just like, how do you realistically combat that without just flooding the market and devaluing all the cards as far as like some of the rate of pulling some of those cards?
I don't
Or
know.
does Nintendo even really care because they're still making money, so why should they care?
I don't know that they do. I don't know. I mean,
because they're still making money off of this, so I just don't think they care enough. Because we're making our money, so it's not our problem anymore. But you think of the long term health, it could not necessarily be the most best thing for the hobby.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, getting the tank now. So this has always happened.
Yeah, but like you look around 2014, 2016, it's not the same.
Oh, Pokemon
cards weren't
no
impossible
way.
to come around and stuff
No
like that.
way.
Like,
Yeah.
this really blew up around COVID and stuff like that. Is
It
really
did.
where the scalping became really
I
bad.
mean, that blew up all the hobbies, to an extent, everything.
Like you saw retro games as well. It just got so expensive.
You saw
like
retro games.
It was always
you
a
saw
problem, but it wasn't
cards. You saw
it wasn't
consoles.
this big of a problem.
Right.
It was worse than it was a decade ago. So,
because I mean, do you remember the PS4 being scalped or the PS4 Pro? I don't.
No, that was really on the PS5,
remember that.
though.
Don't
Because it went all
that.
digital and it became real easy to scalp and limited numbers, and everyone's at home, so everyone wants something to do. So
exactly, I think
it just felt like COVID is really what jacked the pricing of a lot of this stuff up.
I think so too. Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. Yeah, I think that's all we got for this week. Anything else that you can think of, Mark, that you saw? Or
no, I think we got everything.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody that's been watching, hanging out with us live here. Of course, we'll be, for anybody watching live, we'll be live tomorrow playing something. We don't know yet. We'll be figuring that out, putting it out there. I'll have something up hopefully in the morning schedule. But yeah, we'll also be live again next week, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as usual. So anybody that listens to the podcast, definitely come check out the live show as well. And we'll see you all later. Everybody have a good one.
Yeah. Peace out, everybody.